So what is up, guys? You got your boy Stingren here today, and today we're back with some Aether Gazer, and today we're gonna be here giving you guys a team guide video. I'm gonna be kind of giving you guys like a basic TR of how to make a team, kind of like a skeleton type of thing. I've noticed a lot of people ask questions about what type of team that you want to run for potential units, and once you kind of get the core concept of what you want for that team, then it gets to be a little bit easier. So anyway, let's go ahead and let's get started. So first things first is, what unit do you want to use? So this is how we're going to do it. We're going to do it by each member slot. So slot 1, who's going to be the manual unit you want to use, right? So we're going to go to our modifiers and we're going to see what unit I want. For example, if I say, oh, I want to use Ashura. This is the unit I want to use because she seems like a lot of fun, right? Now, make sure you have a proper understanding of what the unit does, whether or not you can find information on official sources like Discord. You can ask people around in other communities. You can find things like guides in Discord. I highly recommend, if you're not in the Aether Gazer Discord, please join, because if you aren't, then you're kind of missing out on things that people who post guides, people who post like different type of strategies and things. So this is kind of the best way to kind of get your general information about a unit if you're not sure how the unit works. For example, to give you a TLDR about Ashura, she's a fire resist down ranged character that inflicts a fire imperil down by 30% on her ultimate. That's just a very simple TLDR about this character. So with knowing this, if I go to the skills, you can see it right here where it says enemies hit have their fire resist lowered by 30% for 10 seconds. So that's kind of just there. So knowing this, right, your idea can kind of start to formulate in your head. You're like, okay, well, if I'm going to be using her as the fire DPS, then maybe I might want other characters to abuse that fire DPS, right? So now you've kind of already got a skeleton going in. Now, before we talk about our skill 2, because that's actually going to play a little bit of explaining, you're going to have to figure out what is it that you're going to do with Ashura first. If you're going to just use her as a generic DPS, then you don't have to necessarily focus on the Imperil. You could just pair her up with someone else. Now let's talk about the slot 2. Slot 2 is your ult chain partner, or again, a utilization of the type of thing that this character is doing. So we already talked about how Ashura is a fire debuffer, right? So the most common thing to put in the back of your head is, maybe I should put a character who can do fire damage. Prime examples would be this Kagasuchi right here. Another prime example would be Hera, as she does do fire damage. Another good source of that is also Noraha. I'm sorry, I'm butchering the hell out of his name right now, but these would be good examples of units that are fire damage dealers that can work. Now, I do shoot for Noraha more because he has a matching gen zone with the unit. Now, it's completely not needed to match gen zones, but it does give a damage boost to the respective people who is in that gen zone. Since both Ashura and Noraha are asterism units, they can boost each other because they're matching their gen zones, which is a little bit helpful. That's a little bit helpful in damage, but again, it's completely not necessary. You don't really have to build it for specific gen zones. There is one really good future team that does come out in the next patch with Hades. I think it's Hades, Hera, and the Aerith Onirios, I believe is her name, where Onirios has a matching ult chain with Hades, and she gives your party an Olympus boost of 60% of damage. But that's, again, for a very specific case. But it's not like you have to match the gen zone. So don't ever feel like you have to match a gen zone ever. Just kind of play it as what you want. But if I were to make a fire team right now, I can pick Ashura, and then I can pick this Noraha unit as a starting skeleton. I have my fire damage, and I have someone who can capitalize on that fire. Now, the third slot should be, what's going to be the filler unit that I can use. Now, typically, the third filler unit can be any of one thing. It can be a DPS. So if you want somebody to build more damage, if you want someone that can again capitalize on that fire, if you want to run full mono fire, there's nothing that stops you from doing so. So what do you want? It could be either be another DPS, another support, or it can be something that works towards your specific gen zone, which again, we talked about this as being Asterism for Astra since she's our main DPS. Since we already filled 2 out of the 3 using both Norha and Asura, then we have our matching gen zone, and we have our matching fire, so we can fit in whatever third slot we want. We can be like, all right, so third slot, what do I need? And really, I think the third slot should always go to a support. A support should always be in the team, or some sort of buffer. So some sort of support or some sort of buffer would be great. I mean, support and buffing is kind of essentially the same thing, but I mean, some supports are just for healing, just in case if you want to feel safe. I feel like healing is a bit of the lower scale of Aether Gazer. People feel like you don't have to run healers. I don't think that that's true, because not everybody can be like super extremely good at the game, right? Especially if you're just starting out and you have to get used to boss timings. So putting in a healer is definitely not a sort of skill issue or anything, as some people I've seen some people say. But for example, if I wanted to throw a third unit in, I can just simply pick Poseidon, because she is a support who can, one, buff teams, and she can heal. Another interesting support option would actually be Counter-Tide Leviathan, because she is also an Asterism and she also can heal. But the only thing that doesn't work with Leviathan is with her signature functor. Now, if you don't have her signature functor, then don't worry about this part. But this is really just kind of just a third slot for terms of thing. But she has a melee resist down on part of as a part of her functor. So obviously, when you pair her up, you want people that has obviously melee in her kit. Since Asura is ranged, then it's not gonna go. It's not gonna go very well. So that's why I wouldn't really recommend Counter-Tide Leviathan. She does have the heal, at least, and she does have an access of crowd control, which actually pairs up very well with Ashura with her ability to lock enemies in place, but that's more of an advanced thing. So again, potentially an option, but I would just say you can simply just go Title Song Poseidon, because she's one for free. You can get her simply just by playing the game, and you can get her to Omega for free, which is really, really good. She's also ranged too, so. But that is the general skeleton for your team. Not every team is going to follow a specific thing. Some units don't have an element at all, so it's probably better just to put them with their ult chain partner. If you don't have an ult chain, then you just have to kind of fit in whatever works with that type of role. So if you see this character as a melee and uses traces, try maybe finding another melee unit that can chain well with them, and then use that third slot for whatever, for I would guess a support, because I feel like supporting teams are pretty much not essential, but it really, really helps ease your way into the end game, because that way you have an extra plan, or you have an extra way just to really chump up damage, especially if you're not able to beat certain bosses in a certain time span or something like that. So that's why I do actually recommend that you put support in your team, because putting a support in your team just makes it easier for the player, which is why I recommend it 9 times out of 10. So, for example, you could always say, okay, I want to put special AI support. Now, AI support is a different thing. This is only really relevant with the character who has AI chips. This is different because AI chips are not in every character, but they basically prevent or allow characters to do certain things. As you can see here, this AI chip from Sakura allows me to draw a certain chip in a specific order, which goes into her skill, which means I actually can get buffs from her to get buffs. So that's actually a really interesting way to kind of maneuver her playstyle, so that way you can actually get a benefit from her. So that way you can use her as a slot in team for support reasons, while also dealing some DPS. But anyway, I'm going to take you guys over to a quick stage where I have most of my team set up. They're obviously not all done. I've been kind of building up units slowly throughout the day. But Every time I get a little chance to refresh some stamina, that's typically what I do. But anyway, we go down here to plan. And this is where I lock up my teams. This is where I think about teams where I want to use in content. This is what I just about have. My universal team is Scotty, Leviathan, and Kali. Scotty and Leviathan are there for the ult chain. Leviathan's there as my support. She can heal and she has a good crowd control. So yeah, I have my fire team, as I mentioned before, the same three I just mentioned. I have my ice team with, again, Scotty and Poseidon, which is another ult chain. And I have Arctic Abyss Poseidon for group freezing. So yeah, pretty good there. Water team, I want to try messing around with Sobek. This is kind of for fun, but I have two supports here. I have Levi and I have Poseidon. I actually might, whenever I run water, I might maybe build Poseidon for DPS, because with her functor, she can't actually be a DPS. And for light, I have Tier Apollo, and I have, of course, Poseidon. I mean, Poseidon is pretty much one of the best supports you can get right now. Not until She Who Not Be Named drops, but when She Who Not Be Named will drops, literally I'm probably gonna replace all of these with her, with Hera. So yeah, just be looking out for that. But that's typically how I go about making my teams. Is I just go with a certain theme, and then I just go from there. Like for Scotty, it was just build a unit and have an ult chain partner with them, and then just kind of go from there. Now let's talk about advice about your pool teams. Should you go all in for your unit? No, you shouldn't. Now, if this is a general unit, right? Asura is a general unit, not on a rate up right now. I don't recommend trying to chase their signature functor. Don't do this, because you're going to run out of resources very, very, very fast. I've seen people kind of bait themselves into pulling for a certain character's functor because they feel like it's going to be a big upgrade, which is true. But remember, you're playing a gacha game where you're going to need more resources to be able to pull for more new characters. So I don't really recommend you go for functors when it's your ult chain partner, or it's just someone who's not your main priority. For example, Scotty's my main priority on this account, so I had to get her functor. Levi is also a main priority because I actually use her from DPS from time to time. That's why I had to get her functor. And I also got the +2 from getting her SS. But for the time being, I'm not going to pull every character that I invest in, and I'm not going to try to get their functor every single time. I'm just going to have to use what I have available. And that's the best advice I can give you. Further functors, do not try to pull every single one of your characters' functors, even if they are the main DPS of that team, because you're probably going to run out of resources. It's always good to either just try giving them the general zone functor, which you can get by farming. Which, if you go over to the shop here, you go to the trading zone, and I think it's here. Interdimensional variable, where you can buy the general functors for certain ones, and most of these are pretty okay. Like for Yggdrasil, you have Hera, which gives you skill damage boost in 0 time. You have skill damage boost, you have common resonance boost, and skill damage, and max skill damage is boosted by now. And then I think Shinho, I think, is crit rate, crit damage, which is good. You have 9% more damage boost whenever you inflict a dodge with I believe this is Yggdrasil. So Yggdrasil, and then we have the final one, which is Asterism, which gives you 15% more damage in abnormal states. Now I believe Asterism is kind of the more niche one because it's only abnormalities, but there's a few units that can do that. For example, Ashura can certainly make use of this, because she does have a fire imperil, which counts as a imperil, which counts as a type of stat. If you can scorch them with a Naraha, then she can get full benefit of the 15%. So it's a thing. It's a thing that can work. So, but anyway, that's gonna be it for this video, guys. That's gonna be my general tips from me to you about building your teams. Is typically find a DPS, stick with them, and then just build from there. It can be a little bit daunting your first few teams, because I know you'll probably just want to use this unit, that unit, and then it doesn't turn out to be what you want. But anyway, this is anybody. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.